Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 783A, and today's date is October 5th, 2015, and the title of this episode is BIS acknowledges that central banks rig markets and warns about the upcoming global debt bubble. Now, before I get started here, I just want to make an announcement. Tomorrow, Tuesday, I'll be uploading an interview with Willem Middelkoop. He is the author of The Big Reset. If you are on the X22Report.com email alert system, you will get an email. If you've signed up to the YouTube channel X22 Report Spotlight, you should get an email from YouTube. If not, just go to YouTube and type in X22 Report Spotlight. It will bring you right to the video. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com site, scroll down a little bit, move over to your right. You will see the video on the right-hand side. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, it looks like the plunge protection team, the high-frequency traders, they are doing whatever they possibly could to push this market up. And we can see they were pushing hard. The Fed must have been creating money like crazy to keep this market way up there, to make everyone believe we are in a recovery. And we can see right now, this is all they have left. Because if the market completely implodes, they have nothing. All these statistical numbers that they've been throwing at us with the unemployment numbers, GDP, they will be absolutely meaningless. And they know this. This is why they are continually pushing this as hard as they possibly can, keeping the recovery in front of our faces, making everyone believe this, because this is what they need to do before the economy completely implodes and they make you look someplace else except at them. And this is what they're doing right now. Now, out in Greece, we saw Greece was completely falling apart. They were imploding. They have absolutely no business going on right now, no economy. People are living out on the streets. But of course, the bankers stepped in. The government didn't listen to its people, and they gave them more debt. But Greece is still in the same position. There's no difference. They couldn't pay back the other money. What makes anyone think that this new tranche of money they're going to be able to pay back? They won't. It's a Band-Aid fix. And right now, to receive the $86 billion, they need to meet or adopt 48 prior actions to get these funds. These actions include changes across the board, the finalization of pending sales of state assets, changes in taxation, including amendments in the punishment for tax evasion, the new Civil Procedure Code, and new legislation on early retirement in the public sector. So they have a lot to do at this point, and the people that are going to suffer are the everyday man and woman on the street. The creditors, the government, the bankers, they're not going to suffer through any of this, because this was created and devised to help everyone but the people. And we've seen it going all the way back to 2008 to the present time. All of these bailouts do not work. This is why they need more bailouts. And before you know it, the country has sold all its assets and they have nothing left. In Europe, we see the Eurozone retail sales, they're completely flat. We see a decline in food products. We see a decline in clothing. We see a decline in books. And we see a decline in electrical goods. So the economies right now, they're stalling and they're starting to decline. We see this all around the globe. And it's accelerating. It's not slowing down. It's accelerating and it's picking up and it's affecting more and more countries as time goes on. And we see bigger layoffs coming. We see companies that are not hiring. But of course, all of this is swept under the rug to keep everyone in the illusion that everything is absolutely fine. We see manufacturing right now. It's in the doghouse. Markets, U.S. service PMI printed 55.1. They thought it was going to be around 55.6. That was their expectation. This is the lowest since June. So there's manufacturing weakness. We see unemployment being completely manipulated. We see retail sales contracting. We see housing sales stalling, prices starting to fall. The whole thing is starting to implode right now. And we talked about the unemployment numbers before. And of course, the government is out there and they're saying, oh, there was 142,000 jobs that were added. But really, in reality, when you look at all the numbers, we actually lost 248,000 jobs in September. This is absolutely awful. But when you look at the civilian employment population ratio, this is a far more accurate measurement of the employment picture in America than, the government throwing at us this unemployment rate of 5.1, because we know that's completely manipulated. So just prior to the last recession, approximately 63% of all working age Americans had a job. During that recession, that figure dropped below 59%, and it stayed there for several years. And then it moved up above 59%, and no, it did not get anywhere near 63% or 64.5%, which was back in the year 2000. Where did it go? 59.3%. And guess what? It is heading down once again. And it looks like it's going to go below 59%. All these other figures that we're looking at gives us this story and creates a picture of what's really going on here. It tells us and it shows us that the numbers the government is throwing at us are completely manipulated. All they do is they drop off the people that they don't want to count so their numbers look better. That's all they're doing. And we have to remember back in 2013, they got rid of the department that counts layoffs. But we see there are huge amount of layoffs. We see Goldman Sachs already out there, and they're saying, yeah, you know what? We're not going to see a liftoff in the economy until maybe 2016, 2017. And you know what's funny? If you look back in time, you see the same thing in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2013. They keep pushing it out, You know why? There is no liftoff. There's nothing. The whole thing's a sham. This economy is going absolutely nowhere. Now, Saudi Arabia, their petrodollar reserves have now fallen to a 32-month low. They keep selling their foreign assets, and they continually are dropping right now. And Saudi Arabia is under a huge amount of strain because we know the United States government central bankers are telling them to push oil out there. Even though we don't need it, we need to bring the prices down. Now, I've been thinking about this, and we know there's many different agendas associated with this. We know one is to put a lot of pressure on China and Russia specifically. We understand they want to improve the economy. And they knew when they were going to do this that certain sectors were going to get hurt. But you have to think about this in a larger picture. As they brought down the fuel costs, it meant that people had extra money in their pockets. Now, they thought they were going to take this money and go and spend it, which didn't happen. And if you look at corporations like UPS, FedEx, those companies that are creating products, that have to ship products with their own freight system, this allows them to bring in more money because fuel costs are very low at this point. Even though UPS, FedEx saying, oh, lower fuel costs means higher prices for delivery. No, that means less people are purchasing. And if they didn't bring the fuel costs down to this level right now, I think the economy would not be able to continue on. And I think they were trying to push this, and we know they're trying to push this as far as they possibly can, because they don't want this to collapse until they decide, okay, we have everything set up, and now we can just let it go. They need to keep the illusion alive, because if they don't, everything is blamed on them. So think of all the corporations, think of the food prices, think of everything that you see out there. By lowering the cost of fuel, it brings everything back down. It allows companies to operate. And they were hoping that people would spend, but that's not happening. Because when you don't have jobs, or you have part-time jobs, and you don't have discretionary funds, you have nothing to spend. And anything that you're saving at the pump here, you're keeping. You're just happy you're getting a little bit more into your tank than you were before. And if you were actually lowering the amount that you're putting into your tank, you're not going out and saying, okay, this extra money, I'm going to go buy an HD TV. It's just not happening. And this is why we see retail contracting further. And it will not stop. As we go along and they continually drop people off of the unemployment list here, saying that they're not looking anymore, because you have to remember, the way this is figured out is that if you have a part-time job, you're counted as a full-time working person. If you decide to get two of these jobs, you're working two full-time jobs. Even though they're part-time, they're counting you as full-time. If you haven't been on an interview in 4 weeks, they've considered you not looking anymore. You really not really interested in getting a job right now. You don't want to support your family. You don't want to buy food. You don't want to pay for your car, rent, mortgage. You're not interested. So a person who is 4, 5, 6 months out, still sending out resumes, they're saying that person doesn't care anymore. And they don't count them. And this is what they do to manipulate their numbers, to make everything look really good. But we know that these numbers are completely manipulated and they make no sense, because when we look at the broader picture here, everything that we're seeing doesn't make sense, because this holiday season, if we go by what the government is telling us, this holiday season should be amazing, because we're down to 5.1%, right? So we should see store sales skyrocketing. Actually, we should see stores opening. But guess what? We are not going to see this whatsoever. And the corporate media is going to keep it very, very quiet on how this holiday season goes. Because last year we saw Black Friday, Cyber Monday, a complete disaster. It's going to be a complete disaster once again. We see the BIS, the Bank of International Settlement, is warning unrealistic and dangerous to expect the monetary policy can cure all the global economy's ills. They're also warning that the recent turmoil is not caused by isolated incidences. That's very interesting. It's not just one thing. Yes, there are many things that are causing this, especially the debt. And they're saying that the debt levels right now are so extreme, they threaten the financial system. Well, we all knew this. The debt right now cannot be sustained. This is why they have to keep interest rates at zero. They can't raise them at this point. This would be a huge, huge problem. Ultra low rates have led to malinvestment and bigger boom-bust cycles. Emerging markets vulnerable to deeper crisis. ECB easy money may juice markets for a while, but it's not going to continue on. It will fall apart, just like we're seeing all over the place. And they also acknowledge that the central banks rig the markets. Well, absolutely. Right now, the public and private debt in the developed world has risen 36% since the crisis and is now 265% of GDP. It adds that the post-crisis problems, they have not been dealt with at all. And what we're seeing right now has just gotten worse. And like I've said before, this next crisis, this next crash is going to make 2008 look like a little bump in the road. Because all they did was kick the can down the street, and everything that we've been talking about has gotten exponentially worse. And all those people that lost their homes, don't have credit, lost their jobs, just trying to make it day by day, they're not out in the market today. going out and purchasing like they once did. They're not out there buying homes. This is why the mortgage applications are continually falling. Those people who've kept their jobs, this is the next wave. Now, I wish nothing against these people. I wish it never will happen. I don't want anything bad to happen. But I'm looking at reality here. I'm looking at facts. And those people who are already out of the market, they've already lost it. The next wave is coming. And this is going to be horrific. Now, out in Germany, Deutsche Bank is going to raise the 2016 GDP forecast. How are they going to do this? Well, it's very easy. They're going to do it because they have a surge of immigration. So they're saying right now, because they have all these new refugees coming into the country, it means that they're going to have increased consumption, and that means they're going to raise GDP. Even though the external and the financial environment have deteriorated, it doesn't matter. They have refugees coming in, they have people, more purchasing. We're just going to increase the GDP numbers, which is absolutely ridiculous because they're really not adding anything to the country right now. Actually, it's a strain on the country, but they don't care. They need to make everything look like everything is completely fine. We see around 12 countries around the Pacific, they have okayed the TPP. Of course, this whole thing has been kept a secret. The people really don't know anything about it. Doesn't mean that this thing now moves forward. What happens right now, Congress has to approve it. And this is where the problem's going to be. But as we know, the TPP is not for the everyday person. And when we look at this, we see that certain countries were not included in this. China and the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa, not really included in this deal whatsoever. We see that despite this TPP being passed, this is only one piece of the puzzle for U.S. officials. Remember, there's still the TTIP and TISA. And as of right now, all of this is being done for the corporations and the central banks and the U.S. government. This is not going to be a benefit to the people whatsoever. Many of the countries that have been protesting the TPP, the TTIP, and TISA, they're saying that this agreement will basically wash away workers' rights and it will undermine the government's sovereignty across the world. And of course, how can you know this for sure? We only see bits and pieces of it, and so far what we've seen says, yes, this will happen, but we haven't even seen the entire document. You know, the document that's so transparent that they want it passed, but they can't mention it. They can't make a copy of it. They can't talk about it, but it's very, very transparent. And we know right now, Obama, the central bankers, the corporations, they are all pushing this as hard as they possibly can. The question is why? Why are they pushing this so hard without letting anyone know what it's really all about? It's almost like Obamacare. They didn't want you to know what it's about. They didn't want you to know that there's penalties, taxes included. The premiums were going to go up. It was going to be basically a monopoly among the insurance companies. They'd have full control of the people. They're not really giving the people a benefit. The same thing with the TPP, the TTIP. It's the same exact thing. We're going down the same exact road. And Congress should not vote for this. If they're working for the people, they should look at this and say, wait a minute, this is not going to help the people. And they should not vote for this whatsoever. But again, we have to remember, Congress really doesn't work for the people anymore. They're bought and paid for. A lot of them are looking at their own interests, taking bribes, taking money from other entities, other governments, other nations around the world from central bankers, from corporations. So it doesn't look like there's too much hope with Congress voting it down, but we'll have to wait and see, and hopefully they do the right thing. But I'm not going to hold my breath. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.